how could we do this in a different way without compromising quality? That rigid process was limiting our flexibility to react, to be resilient. Not because it's very fancy and modern. That doesn't mean that it's gonna fit my needs. The challenge is what we are gonna do with the data. If that is the correct data to make our decisions or not. I'm thinking in the person that is receiving that medicine. That is my motivation, right? That what I'm doing is someone else in some part of the world waiting for that medicine.
Hi, I'm Leigh. Welcome to the Connected Cold Chain podcast. Today we're talking to Mauricio, and we're going to touch base on how infrastructure is either limiting or helping safety within the supply chain. So, Mauricio, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Sure. Thanks for having me, Leigh, and good to see you here in Puerto Rico. My name is Mauricio Reyna. I'm the lead of global transportation at BMS.
Yep.
I have the privilege to lead a talented team at BMS that is responsible to oversee the transportation operations in something that we called primary distribution, shipments from internal, external manufacturing sites to distribution centers, and also inbound shipments. My team is also responsible to manage risk in the network with crisis from weather impacts, geopolitical issues. So in order to mitigate the risk of disruption. I've been at BMS this April 24 years.
Wow.
And I'm very, very happy for being here.
Well, that's great. Very impressive 24 years at BMS. That's a feat that's not happening much these days. But I did want to jump right in and start asking questions on the infrastructure within the cold chain corridors and the challenges we're having with infrastructure, as well as what's working great, right? Because I always think of infrastructure as something that's a good background and backbone for what we're trying to do. But I kind of want to touch on how the infrastructure might be giving us a false sense of safety, because we have all these stopping points that are built in for cold chain to help protect your products. Mm-hmm. But also, how is it helping support your products as well? Because I think it's a good, and there's some challenges with it, and we can talk about that a little more.
Well, definitely infrastructure is a good thing, right? And we built this infrastructure thinking or accepting that something could eventually go wrong, right? And we really constructed everything because we knew or we accepted the risk of shipping temp control products. But also it should be the process part of the infrastructure, right? Because even if you have the infrastructure, that doesn't mean that you're safe, right? If you don't have the processes, if you don't have a team or a group of partners that are doing something with that infrastructure. I'm a believer of processes, also to identify what is your focus or what is your objective when using that infrastructure, right?
That's a really interesting point, because the infrastructure is built to give you that sense of safety. However, it can be challenging if there isn't what you describe as the process that helps protect that infrastructure and make sure everything's going through the process step by step. Is there any thought that sometimes the infrastructure might limit what you're trying to do, or you're trying to create so many processes to protect yourself that it limits your agility? Say, for an example, in a black swan event, because we've had more of those geopolitical events here lately. How would that impact you when you have such strong processes in place?
I think as part of the patient safety strategy or focus in our industry, it was natural to construct a rigid infrastructure to keep everything under control, right? And to me, it was natural. I mean, you are expecting something is going to go wrong. You will not know how bad it's gonna be.
Yep.
So just prepared for the worst case scenario, right?
Yes.
However, supply chain has been evolving in the last 10 years because of the technology.
I
So
love
the
that.
way we are shipping things today is not the way that we were doing the same thing 15 or 20 years ago. So that rigid process was limiting our flexibility to react, to be resilient. So something that it's important to me is to involve every single group that works with you, even if they are not logistics, even if they are not part of the supply chain,
Yep.
because the regulatory groups, the quality groups, well, perhaps they don't have this exposure
Mm-hmm.
about how logistics work. In my experience, it has been very useful to bring them to the table, say, hey, I understand the infrastructure, I understand the need to
Yep.
do this, but how could we do this in a different way without compromising quality, but helping me to find a more flexible solutions? And at least in my experience, that worked perfectly. Um, and now in my team is really being successful because we build or we adapt this infrastructure to the new requirements, to the new age of the supply chain, and we found a way to do it. Right? It was not easy. I'm
Yep.
not. I mean, I answered this in 5 minutes, but it was a very hard work.
Yep.
But it worked.
Yeah. Well, creating processes is not an easy task. And then, you create those and then have to pivot or change on those processes. But I love how you started talking about technology because I do feel like technology has changed fairly drastically
Mhm.
in the last 5 to 10 years, far as giving you guys more flexibility and more agility within your shipments because you can now track things in real time. You can,
Correct.
have more visibility as your product moves through the supply chain where the challenges actually are. So, are you guys experiencing that where you're kind of looking at saying, well, maybe I don't need to make 2 stops now versus, in the past, because we needed to make sure the container was charged or the packaging was still in good space or it needed to go back into a cold storage? Has the technology change giving you guys more flexibility to help drive out some of the redundancy within your infrastructures?
The technology obviously helps a lot to outline your strategies, to
Yep.
see what you could use from the technology, but we need to be careful as well because sometimes the technology is seen like a fashion, like the last
The
um,
latest
the
trend.
latest, yes, the trend. And I think for us in logistics, we should analyze, right, what the technology does, how that technology could be adapted to my needs,
Yes.
right, and how we are going to use it. I remember, again, in my old times in security, when these digital cameras came in, replacing the analog
Yeah.
cameras. And I remember that the conversation at that time was not necessarily if we needed to convert from analog cameras to the digital cameras, but how much quality of the image we needed. And I
Mhm.
remember that obviously the best camera uh, could give you a very nice image of something. But then the question for us was, are we really need that um, uh, like a quality of
Yep.
image, or I can live with a quarter of this quality? So that was really the questions at that time, because the costs, obviously, it was
Yeah.
completely different. With these sensors and devices that we have right now, I think it's the same. I think we should be very analytical what the technology provides and
Hmm.
how we are going to take advantage of that, right?
Right.
Because not because it's very fancy and modern, that doesn't mean that it's going to fit my needs. um, and then yes, it helps, but I'm still thinking that the real time visibility is not at the level that we would like,
Okay.
because at the time we have that in the right level, you might have more visibility in your supply chain, and you will really be successful to identify where the risk is and if you need to do something else or not.
Yep.
Because right now is not a standard process yet. A lot of regulatory aspects in terms of the devices on planes and
Yeah.
something like that. Um, but to me, that is the next step, right? That we have this real time visibility. We learn from the data,
Yep.
where the things are happening, why perhaps are happening. But again, I don't feel that it is 100% responsibility, let's say, from the service provider. As a customer, I think we have our responsibility as well, to be successful in reviewing capabilities and challenging the solution and identifying our own strengths and weaknesses in the process, and then construct a balanced solution, or even a tailored solution between the
Yeah.
two.
How I kind of see it is all of this real time visibility gives you guys better data to make better decisions.
Hmm.
And you can do it a little bit more efficiently, right? So you've got more information at your fingertips to identify areas of risk, identify areas where things are going great, and then you can look to change your infrastructure needs or potentially packaging needs or whatever your challenges are, maybe drive out some cost using this data. I think it's really interesting how we're capturing it and how you guys are interpreting it, because each pharma really has some of their own unique nuances to either
Hmm.
their product they're moving, the requirements that they have to move it within. And so I'm also fascinated how you guys can stay on top of all of the data that's changing so much, or so much data that's coming in.
Yeah.
I didn't know if
It's
that was a
exhausting at some
challenge.
point. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about the challenge of too much data.
The challenge is, um, first of all, what we are going to do with the data.
Yep.
If that is the correct data to make our decisions or not. Um, and again, to me, is part of the analysis that we need to do at the beginning of
Yep.
implementing or adopting this technology. In the risk management and weather, for example, right? I mentioned that responsibility of my team. I need someone looking into the data, looking into the event,
Yep.
weather event, and then another group to check if I have in transit shipments through that area, or if we are going to have some bookings in the future. If I don't have this process again
Yep.
around the data, I could have the best weather alert tool, but if nobody's seeing it
Yeah.
and nobody is really taking advantage of that data, you don't have the benefit. So, in terms of temperature control, right? How frequent we need the records from the data.
Mm-hmm.
Our temperature range are correct, or they are very they are not flexible. Am I interested in the outside temperature or not? Vibration, light.
Yep.
So everything is available, but what do I really need to protect my product?
Mm-hmm.
And once you answer that question, I think the following its steps will be natural, right? When you have identified your focus, the benefit, then you can construct the process, right? But the challenge for me is that the challenge, of course, we are a high regulated type of business,
Yes.
even data.
Yep.
So sometimes another challenge is, again, work with the regulatory quality groups, understand the data, how we are gonna use the data, the integrity of the data. So if the data is going to be used for product release is, I think,
Yeah.
is part of the challenges that sometimes we face in the pharmaceutical business.
Yeah. Because it's one of those things I think about how much data you guys have to manage, as well as the uniqueness of each of the products that you ship. And then we start looking at, we did some recent studies and polls within the industry, and we were finding that people were saying they're having more challenges with excursions. And it's kind of fascinating to me to kind of wrap all this technology in and then understand why there's still excursions happening and what we might could do to mitigate it or help support you guys to help prevent excursions. And I didn't know if there was any thoughts on that.
It has been interesting for me to work with our temp control team and also at the same time working on the logistics incident reporting,
Yeah.
right? And I remember a conversation when I was asking, well, but if this temperature deviation is not impacting the product, should we continue calling it excursion? Because
Yes.
at the time you hear temperature excursion, immediately after you think, well, there is a problem, right? And then we need to do a lot of things. Um, to me, is everything is about to mitigate the risk.
Yep.
I should be honest with you. I would never outline a strategy with zero excursions. It's
There's no such thing as perfection.
no. And in logistics, a lot of things might happen,
That's right.
right?
A lot of things outside of your control.
Correct. Yeah, that's a good point because in the manufacturing, right, you have the control
That's right.
from the starting point to the finished line. You have the control. In transportation, a lot of moving pieces, a lot of partners.
Yep.
So it could be almost impossible. However, if you analyze what is happening in a particular lane through data, you understand where your risk is. Then, if that risk is acceptable, okay, now you're going to be focused what to do to mitigate as much as you can that risk. Because if it is out of control, then it's going to create an issue. I like trendings. I really like to see what the data is saying. Um, and sometimes you need people trained to see data and helping you to at least say, okay, I don't know if this is good or bad, but
Yeah.
you need to take a look. So it, I think that the concept of temperature excursion has evolved as well. It's not the same concept.
Yeah.
And then we need to understand and accept the risk. And then I think we could be more effective to manage these moving pieces or uncontrollable situations as you described.
Yeah. This has actually helped me quite a bit. I'm fairly new to pharma logistics. I've worked in the construction industry in the past. And so hearing how you guys have developed processes, reliant on infrastructure, you've tried to build in all of this control and processes to help deliver your product. But there are so many variables like weather, black swan, geopolitical. I mean, we could go on and on and on about the things that are outside of your control. I feel like you guys have done a very good job at establishing how to get pharma to the most critical patients and all over the globe and the world. Is there any areas you feel like maybe more of a challenge than others, or you need more processes, or do you kind of treat the shipments all the same and use more consistent processes throughout the world?
Nowadays, we must be flexible. We must be creative in the solutions. Um, Passive solutions for control temperature requirements like 15 to 25, I think is still a challenge for us. We need to continue analyzing what we can do better. Now, sustainability is another thing that is not
Yes.
new, but now is more visible. So to me, every single lane or every single product that we ship is a different challenge. And then 2 to 8 is a little bit easier in terms of the solutions that you might really identified or to identify in the market, let's say. But 15 to 25 is still a challenge, and sometimes the tarmac time and the airports,
Right.
um, this seasonal traffic in Asia or in Americas, all these things are really challenging to control, and these type of products are less there's less sensitivity about the temperature excursions. uh, but if you don't do something, you are gonna really start having issues.
Yeah.
And again, we are in a very complex supply chain, so you are touching almost every single region, every single country, different operations at the airports, different cargo handlers, different even even different cultures
Yeah.
and how to manage pharma. So I think the challenge is still there. Um, yes, we have better solutions, we have better technology, but we cannot really drop the ball and say, "Hey, now we are good." I don't think that is happening.
Yeah. Yeah, as you're describing it, and I'm hearing all the focus on process, data, how you're interpreting it, when you need to step in, where the challenges exist. It sounds like you guys have a really good handle on where you are today. How do you see you guys evolving into the future?
Um, Two aspects: real-time visibility, control tower strategies to have full visibility about what is happening in the network. Um, then we are gonna obviously adopt AI capabilities to facilitate the trending, the reporting piece, the risk management. So when we connect the dots, right, from the supply, demand, planning, and then logistics, that is really where we want to be, right? To have this centralized hub of information where decisions could be made easier, faster. We want to be obviously we want to create a supply chain that is flexible, reliable, that is cost effective, sustainable, and then our work or our job in the following months will be to find or to connect every single piece of information to this control tower concept,
Mhm.
and from there I think we are going to be in a better shape to do this.
You know, that's a great topic, and I love to hear that because one of the things we've been talking about is cold chain agility and how we can help support, provide more flexibility or agility to the challenges you guys are seeing. And it sounds like you're really trying to connect all of your data, make sure you have full visibility from one centralized location to make better decisions.
Mhm.
Is there anything you feel like the industry's lagging on that we should really focus on a little bit more than say, because I mean, like, I feel like control tower data, the technology is here, but what's missing?
I think that, collaboration and partnership should be seen in a different way, because obviously you are connecting your data with us.
Yep.
So the level of partnership should be different. It should be stronger than previous models, let's say,
Right.
because obviously you will help us with the concept, but you are still helping us collecting that data. It's important for our partners to understand why we are doing what we are doing. At least is what I do every single time or when I have the opportunity to tell them why we are doing this, why is important control tower, why your data is important,
Yep.
right? Um, and also to continue providing us with alternatives in terms of using or analyzing the data as well, right? Because what I've seen in the past is, okay, I have this product, I can give it to you, and you do whatever you want with that data. In concept is okay, but sometimes I don't have the time to do it.
Yes.
So if you can really give us a full solution where you are going to provide the data, but also you will still really doing your own analysis and perhaps sharing some kind of or trigger alerts for us. Like, hey, I don't know if you already noticed, but this is what the data is telling. I think that will help us even more, right? If it is not only giving you or giving us the technology, but also a little bit of the process as well, and then we can work in a different way as a partners.
So I like that. So what I heard was you're looking for strategic partners that will help you solve your challenges in a data driven way. And so to me, what I heard was we're going to talk about some challenges. We're going to address areas of needs, areas you want to address or focus on. And then not only could we understand the problems or challenges you're experiencing, but how we also come back with some innovative solutions that help drive out the inefficiencies, help drive down cost, and actually not impact the deliverables of your product.
Correct. It's perfectly said. I think that should be, and also you should continue being open in terms of the different solutions that I will need to connect to my control tower. That perhaps your solution will not be the 100% of the solution for me,
Yep.
and we will need to really work as an ecosystem, right? In this control tower visibility thing. So every single partner will have a piece of the business, but I think that is the evolution in the end.
Yeah. I think that's important because this is a very complex supply chain because there are so many partners and each individual company is delivering their own part or piece. But then also, how do we all feather together to help solve or bring one, effective solution to you? And it's been interesting being in logistics so far because I see a lot of collaboration and a lot of support, company to company to help make sure pharma gets what they need to deliver their products safely. And it's been fun so far.
Yeah, logistics is a completely different world. What I really like is every single day is different.
That is true.
And then the solution that you identify today for that specific problem, you're going to have another problem, but most likely that solution is not going to be the one for that new problem. So
Yep.
you need to think about and find another solution. It's very dynamic, and this is what I like, right? Yes, it's challenging. It's a week. You can have a week that is good, right, in terms of stress, but then the next week something happens, and then the stress is going up. But it's dynamic, it's fun,
Yeah.
and to me as well. You need to have always a motive why you are doing this, right? Yeah, of course, it's a work and you get money for doing it, but there should be something else. And for me, is always when I'm doing my job, I'm thinking in the person that is receiving that medicine. That is my motivation, right? That what I'm doing is someone else
Yeah.
in some part of the world waiting for that medicine. And I think that's my fuel to
Yeah.
really be creative and trying to find solutions without compromising security, quality, and everything, because I know there is a person
Yeah.
in the process, in the end of the process.
Yeah. There's a human that's life will be better based on all the effort and the challenges we go through. But as you were talking, I hear we're always trying to look for consistency and reliability and ways we can replicate these logistics. However, you have to have agility. You have to be nimble
Hmm.
because there are things that are so beyond the control of the logistics chain. And you can't just say, well, today we're not shipping because there's a hurricane, or,
Hmm.
we lost power, or whatever the challenge may be. So you have to get creative. You have to have agility to adjust. And then you have to say, how would I do this differently today to make sure that patient gets their drugs, their pharma?
Yeah, it has been an interesting journey the last 2 or 3 years, right? Because obviously during COVID we learned a lot, right? But then again, something different happened, and we needed to do or to find this flexibility, as you mentioned. And I will say again, we worked in advance with the groups that are key for this flexibility and creativity. I think once we caught the attention from them, once we explained them why this was important, we started to collaborate in a way that they were suggesting things as well for us, right?
Yeah.
And then I used to tell the quality team, for example, right? Hey guys, I'm not here to hear a no. I'm here to learn from you how we are gonna do it.
Yeah.
So we need to transform from the no to the how.
Yeah.
And it wasn't easy, but to your point, this is the way we found flexibility, right? Talking, collaborating with every single group, not only logistics, not only transportation, warehousing. It is quality, it is regulatory. I remember a time where we were able to assign or to have in our team a person from the regulatory group, right? And that person was our liaison with the different regulatory, because that is another challenge for logistics. Sometimes you go, okay, regulatory needs to say something.
Yeah.
And then you go to regulatory and you are thinking that you are going to speak with one person, and you find a very complex structure in the regulatory or even in quality. So we said, no, we will not be successful if we do that. So we talked to the leaders of that organization, and one person was assigned to us, and that person helped a lot and making questions. Well, but why are you doing this, or why do you know
Yeah.
do you need this? And that person helped us to bring that message to the regulatory group, and then after that, after they really understood and really identified the way to help, that has been a blessing for us in logistics, because then everything went smooth. Yes, there are some countries that are more strict than others, and we need to continue keeping what we are doing.
Yeah.
But I can tell you, our relief was like 90% after this exercise. It took
Yeah.
almost 2 years to do it, but now it's not just we were lucky. Now is because the process is working.
Yeah.
Now is we are being successful in moving freight through these difficult times, because we built this process,
Yeah.
we worked together, we anticipated as much as we could, and now we are seeing some benefits of the process.
Oh,
To be
that's
honest,
fantastic.
yeah.
Well, as always, every time I talk to you, I learn something new. And I so enjoy these conversations. And is there any parting words or anything you want to leave us with as we wrap up the connected cold chain?
um, well, real time visibility, trending, technology plus processes to learn in advance what is happening. I think, and the control tower, AI capabilities, everything that is coming, I think that is the future of this strategy for cold chain. Again, I'm enjoying this. Also, is a very passionate topic, right? To talk about cold chain and logistics. So just thank you for having me, and it has been a pleasure, a lot of fun
Yeah.
talking about this.
Yeah. In my parting words, I really see what we're talking about is the evolution of cold chain to give more flexibility, more agility, more data-driven decisions, not necessarily a revolution because we can't change overnight due to all the challenges and complexity within the logistics space, but the evolution is happening.
Yeah, no, definitely is coming, and we need to be prepared for that.
Yeah.
As now we are in the middle of a lot of controversies about AI and things that maybe will not happen, but just be prepared.
Yep.
I mean, yeah, if we need to learn something new, oh, let's learn how it works, and if it is for me, it's for me. If it
Yeah.
is not, it's not. So yeah, to your point, is evolution is to me. I should be honest with you. Partnerships for me is really the foundation of everything, right? If you don't build good relationships
Yep.
with your partners, everything is going to be more difficult. So being honest, transparent, having the room or the opportunity to challenge one each other, that is going to be fundamental to support this evolution that you are mentioning.
Yeah. Well, my personal motto is always be part of the solution, not part of the problem.
Correct. Well, it's a very good one. Yeah, of course.
Well, great. Well, pleasure talking to you today. Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much for your time.
Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate it.